Hi, this is Mr. Cordes, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be doing a writing style mimic activity. Um, you have had the opportunity to gather information and learn about all three authors' life and background and a little bit about their writing. Then you had the opportunity to go through the stories, reading the poems and the poetry that our authors have presented and are for this selection. Then you had the opportunity to answer some questions, kind of make sure that you understand what's going on for the story and who they are as a person. So at this moment in time, you should have quality information about Edgar Allan Poe, Sandra Cisneros, and Maya Angelou. So you have gathered just enough information that you could tell someone, hey, I've learned about Maya Angelou and I found out X, Y, and Z. I've read about Edgar Allan Poe and I know A, B, C, and D. Like you are able to kind of articulate and communicate just a fraction of who they are. We are not studying these guys in depth. However, we do know enough about them that we can move forward. So today's activity, we're going to look at all three authors. If you have not gone through the stories, if you have not gone through the poems, there's the audio and all of the attachments from the previous lesson. So please take a moment to go back and do that. Otherwise, this will be difficult. So here's the deal. These three authors actually are very different in their writing style. Now, that's not new information. All three are very different. Edgar Allan Poe writes specifically using like long sentences, complex words. He uses certain things that kind of give off a Edgar Allan Poe feel. Just like Maya Angelou in the way that she uses metaphors and similes, uses very, very descriptive, detailed words and phrases and sentences. That's Maya Angelou. Okay, Sandra Cisneros incorporates English and Spanish. She has somewhat shorter sentences that kind of help more of a casual conversational tone. The thing is, here's the deal. If I were to hand you a piece of paper and I said, okay, read this short story, and you began to read through it, you would be able to identify, oh, this is a piece by Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, this is a poem by Maya Angelou. The goal here is to make sure that we understand what's going on. So let's say we used to do this in grad school all the time. We would sit down in one of my classes. It was a survey class in which we look at various different pieces of literature. I think it was a multicultural lit class. But our goal was to get a blank like document. It had a story on it, but our goal was to identify who that author was and kind of use our minds to say, oh, this is this author and this is that author. And so we need to do the same thing for Edgar Allan Poe, Sandra Cisneros, and Maya Angelou. If I was to give you a poem without a title, without an author, would you be able to identify which author it went to? Okay. So looking here, we're looking at their unique writing style. If you click on this document right here, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to bring you to this. And we're going to kind of fill it in according to the poems that we read, the stories that we read, kind of begin to look at the characteristics of the writing, and then we're going to mimic the writing. Okay, we're going to do a bigger mimic exercise later, but right now we're just going to kind of start off small. So I have an example for you here from, let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. I have an example here from Shakespeare. So let's say this right here is taken from Romeo and Juliet, right? This was the line from what we studied and what we did. This is an example, okay? Looking at this, the characteristics, he uses Old English. He has iambic pentameter. There is use of metaphor. So I identified 3 characteristics of his writing from something that he's done, okay? So the first part about this activity is we are going to find a passage or a chunk of poem or a couple lines from the short story and put them down for Edgar Allan Poe, Sandra Cisneros, and Maya Angelou. So you're going to need to go back and pull up your documents and find really good, significant pieces of their writing. Okay. Like find that 2, 3, 4 sentences that's like, yes, this is Maya Angelou. This right here is a great example of Sandra Cisneros. Okay. Then your goal is to identify the characteristics. So if you step back from the writing, you'd be able to notice certain things about them. Edgar Allan Poe has longer, I'm giving you answers, you better get ready and write it down. Edgar Allan Poe has very long sentences. He's got very detailed descriptive. He uses like descriptive imagery a lot. He also has, I don't want to say overcomplicated words, but he has very sophisticated words. Okay. And so he kind of has also this kind of dreary tone, this kind of darker feel to it. He has a lot of emotion in his writing, Okay. Sandra Cisneros, like I've already mentioned, she's very casual. She's very casual in her conversation. She is very, it's like you're sitting down with an old friend talking. There's English and Spanish incorporated together. She has much shorter sentences, which kind of help things to go rapidly throughout her stories. Okay. Maya Angelou, love her. She has such beautiful metaphors. She chooses her words wisely. And for her, I don't think sophisticated is the right word for like word choice, but she's very specific with her word choice. Poignant might be the item, like very purposeful with selecting her words. She also crafts the imagery, the details, the descriptions within those metaphors. So you kind of get the feeling and the tone through those descriptions. Okay. So they're all very different. Yeah, they kind of use the same thing. They're all using details. They're all using description. They all have metaphors, but they're all very different, right? Maya Angelou is much different than Sandra Cisneros and Edgar Allan Poe. So now that so let's look at this. Let me back out just a little bit. You have now, let's take a moment and make sure that we've got examples from all 3 of our texts. Okay. Find, I would say at least 3 sentences or a stanza from a poem. Okay. The next part is to identify the characteristics. What have I said? What have you learned? What do you think is specific about them in their writing style? Okay. Even if you want to do a little Google search and say characteristics of Edgar Allan Poe's writing style, see what you find. Same with Sandra Cisneros, same with Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou's writing style characteristics. See what pops up. You might be able to find something pretty significant. The last thing is mimic writing. I want you in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sentences to mimic the writing. Okay. I'm not worried about the content. You could write about a chicken. You could write about, the weather. As long as it embodies the characteristics that you have discovered about that writer. Okay. So can you write like Edgar Allan Poe? Can you write like Sandra Cisneros? Okay. Can you write like Maya Angelou? Can you identify something from their writing and give me, I would say, guys, at least 5 to 6 to 7 sentences. Like you need to showcase it. If you were to write down an English word and a Spanish word for Sandra Cisneros and be like, well, that's it. That's not showing anything. You're just reiterating the characteristics. So tell me about your morning. Tell me about your plans for the summer. Tell me something, but use it and describe it like Edgar Allan Poe, like Sandra Cisneros, and like Maya Angelou. Okay, so that's your goal for the author style. Now, this is in preparation for things to come later, because for our writing and for the final for this class, you will be talking about your author's writing style. We have another activity coming up where you will write a full poem as well as a short story in the style of your author. Okay, more of a creative type assignment, but this is kind of laying the framework. So if you need help, if you don't understand, if you're somewhat confused, I would suggest first kind of going to a Google search and just doing writing style for your author, and then hit me up and talk to me, message me, and we can figure out how everything is aligned. and to kind of begin to make sure that we understand if this is an example from the story, what are those characteristics, and can I mimic that writing style that the author has done? Okay. Have fun with this. Hope you guys enjoy. I'll talk to you soon.